It's 5 p.m. here in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's begin our journey around the world in the next hour. I'm Joke Rogers. Here's what's coming up on the world today. We'll get updates from the World Health Organization on the Mpox outbreak, now a public health emergency. The World Today begins right now. In South America, at least 5 people have been killed following a deadly attack in Ecuador's mining town of Ponce Enrique. According to media reports, the killings, which was related to armed conflict, occurred around 7 a.m. local time on Tuesday. Multiple bodies were confirmed by a military group inside the mine. The attack also left 3 others injured, including a miner. According to the police, 2 people have been detained in connections to the attacks. And politics in the United States now. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has held a campaign rally in Asheville, North Carolina. Mr. Trump appeared to focus his speech on slamming Democratic Party nominee and Vice President Kamala Harris. He says the United States was once respected by the likes of Russia, China, and North Korea, but according to him, it's now a laughingstock under the Biden-Harris administration.
No, her laugh is career-threatening. They said don't laugh. She hasn't laughed. She doesn't laugh anymore. It's smart, but someday it's going to come out. That's the laugh of a person with some big problems, and we're disrespected all over the world as a country. We were respected before Putin respected us. President Xi of China respected us. Kim Jong-un of North Korea respected us. We were respected by everybody in the world. Today we're being laughed at. Today we're being laughed at all over the world. On election day, we're going to tell her that we've had enough, that we can't take it anymore, Kamala. You're doing a horrible job. You were a terrible attorney general. You were a terrible district attorney. You're the worst vice president in history. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. Go. Get out of here. Get her. Ooh. She truly is a radical. She's flip-flopping on everything to get elected. After she gets elected, it all goes right back to where it was. She refuses to do any interviews or press conferences. Almost 30 days now. She hasn't done an interview. You know why she hasn't done an interview? Because she's not smart. She's not intelligent. And we've gone through enough of that with this guy, Crooked Joe. He didn't do interviews either. They kept him in his basement, and essentially they're keeping her in the basement the same way they kept her. They don't want to expose her to like a question like, what did you have for dinner tonight? Remember, Joe, what kind of ice cream is your favorite? Vanilla. Oh, I like vanilla. Oh. If Harris wins this election, the result will be a Kamala economic crash, a 1929 style depression. 1929. When I win the election, we will immediately begin a brand new Trump economic boom. It'll be a boom. We're going to turn this country around so fast.
Staying in the United States, police authorities have arrested at least 1 person in connection with the death of American-Canadian actor Matthew Perry. Mr. Perry was found unresponsive at his Los Angeles home in October last year. A post-mortem examination found levels of ketamine in the actor's blood, similar to that used for general anesthesia during surgery. Los Angeles police said in May that they were working with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service with a probe into why the 54-year-old has so much of the surgical anesthetic in his system. However, authorities have scheduled a news conference in Los Angeles to announce details in the case later on today. A quick check on the weather. Storm Ernesto has made landfall in Puerto Rico, leaving more than half of all homes and businesses without power. The Caribbean island's main power supplier, Luma Energy, said some 998,000 customers did not have access to electricity following the storm. Forecasters have predicted Tropical Storm Ernesto could become a major hurricane in the next 48 hours. According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, The storm swept past Puerto Rico overnight with up to 25 centimeters of rain expected in some places. Puerto Rico's power grid has been wiped out before by hurricanes in 2022. When Hurricane Fiona hit the island, around 80% of homes and businesses were cut off for almost a month. Japanese railways and airlines are cancelling services as a tropical typhoon Ampil is expected to hit the Western Pacific on Friday during the peak summer travel season. According to the latest advisory from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, the storm was recording sustained winds of 140 kilometers per hour. That makes it the equivalent of a Category 1 hurricane in the Atlantic Basin. The JTWC forecast says as the storm nears Japan, southwest of Tokyo, by Friday evening, it could become the equivalent of a Category 3 hurricane. Japan's meteorology officials have warned that some northern and eastern parts of the country may see violent winds, rough seas, heavy rain, flooding, landslides, and overflowing rivers. The public have also been urged to exercise caution and stay prepared. Similarly, the country has also lifted its warning about a potential mega quake 1 week after it was issued. Well, the World Health Organization has declared an Mpox outbreak in parts of Africa a public health emergency of international concern. The highly contagious disease, which has killed at least 450 people in the DRC, has now spread across parts of Central and East Africa, and scientists are concerned about the speed of spread and its high fatality rate. A previous Mpox public health emergency declared in 2022 was caused by the relatively mild Clade 2. However, this time it's the far more deadly Clade 1 that's at play. There have been almost 14,000 cases of Mpox in the DRC this year alone.
Director, the emergency committee met and advised me that, in its view, the situation constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. I have accepted that advice. The detection and rapid spread of a new clade of Mpox in eastern DRC, its detection in neighboring countries that had not previously reported Mpox, and the potential for further spread within Africa and beyond is very worrying. In addition to other outbreaks of other clades of Mpox in other parts of Africa, it's clear that a coordinated international response is essential to stop these outbreaks and save lives.
Earlier, my colleague Layo Larinde spoke with Dr. Jamiu Ganiyu, a public health physician, chief consultant epidemiologist at the Department of Public Health, Federal Ministry of Health in Abuja, on the Mpox outbreak, which is now a health emergency of global concern.
Okay, yeah, looking at the epidemiology of the virus, it can be spread through direct contact, through mother to child, and also through sexual intercourse. So the first thing to do is to intensify surveillance. And as part of that effort, the committee needs to be engaged. There should be proper awareness, sensitization, so that people can be able to identify and report on time before it gets out of hand. That is that aspect. And also, they need to build the capacity of health workers. It is coming for the first time. They are recording such kind of situation in such country for the first time. There need to be capacity building. That's the training of health workers, surveillance officers, so that they can identify and refer appropriately. Also, since there is availability of vaccine, which WHO has even given approval for that, I will advise that they take care of they vaccinate the vulnerable group, those people that are high risk of getting Mpox, which is those the key population, and men who sleep with men. So I think that is very, very critical if such kind of a step is being taken, meaning that the high risk group need to be provided, need to be vaccinated, meaning that there should be an urgent logistics to ensure availability of vaccine. And also, in terms of case management, it's also very important, realizing the fact that the children are more affected, the women are also more affected, immunocompromised are more affected. So there should also be availability of antiviral to ensure that whoever comes down with the virus is properly treated. And as I've said, they need serious risk communication in that environment so as to create appropriate awareness for people to get aware, especially in terms of the symptom, mode of transmission, and so I think it's very important.
Well, the Democratic Republic of Congo is one country that has been battling Mpox for years. Statistics say the country have been having this for more than 10 years, and it gets worse, every year. Is there any hope that the trend would reduce rather than increase?
We hope so. The beauty of it is the fact that there is availability of vaccine, and also there are some antiviral that can be used to treat individual persons that are infected. So I think there is hope in the sense that if there should be proper community awareness sensitization, and also there is also need that the community needs to be carried along. There are in many instances when there are new kind of infection, people attribute all sorts of myths and misconceptions. I remember before now, about a few weeks ago, I saw some pictures on Facebook where people were saying people are developing rashes as a result of a kind of was it spaghetti that was imported from another country. So I think there is need for proper community engagement, create proper awareness, and carry people along. I think with that, there is hope that there can be a remarkable achievement in terms of control in that country.
Doctor, we also understand that, the viruses mutate, but does this have anything to do with human behavior?
Yes, because before now we don't have the 1P. So we're just, and it's a zoonotic disease started from animal to man. So, and now we're now having woman to woman infection. So I think as far as it is a viral infection, there is not likelihood of mutation. This is something that is not new. But and again, looking at the more people being affected, men who sleep with men, it's not like HIV, right? So there is that possibility of more mutations. But the greatest thing, the only weapon we have at the moment is the fact that we have vaccine, and as well as we have some drugs that actually can be used to treat whoever comes down with the infection.
All right, Doctor, just before I let you go, for the countries that, are not that unaffected so far with Mpox, what advice would you give to them, the governments, and also individuals?
Yes, for them to intensify surveillance. For instance, for Nigeria, because not that Mpox is new to us, Nigeria is one of the countries that is endemic with Mpox, but we are not used to the new variant. So for now, we need to intensify surveillance at the point of entry, which I want to think we've started already with the use of health declaration form. Anybody that's coming to country need to be screened for the common symptoms, fever, flu-like symptoms, and so on, possibility of any rash. I think those are the areas we need to, we need to actually intensify. And apart from the intensified surveillance, we need to reaware, as I've said, resensitize our health worker. The last time we had was 2022 and 2023. We need to actually put everybody on board in terms of building capacity on surveillance. And also, we need to make provision for in case somebody comes down with it, where the appropriate such individual need to be referred to. So these are some of the things we need to, and also we need to get prepared to ensure that we have availability of vaccine. I'm aware that Nigeria, I don't want to quote about 10,000, we're expecting about 10,000 vaccines so that we can take care of the vulnerable groups, which are men who stay with men, which I think is also a very good step. And also to ensure that for those that eventually come with it, we have provision of drugs that will use to actually take care of people like that. I still believe with proper awareness, creating awareness and so on to help, especially in case detection.
All right, then.
Maybe in the committee, you notice anybody having shortness of sight, we'll be able to, inform the appropriate authority so that such person can be linked to appropriate treatment.
Fresh peace talks aimed at ending Sudan's 16-month war have started in Geneva, Switzerland, although neither warring side were present in the negotiating room. The U.S., which is leading the talks, insisted the event continued regardless of their absence. Tom Perello, the U.S. Special Envoy for Sudan, said that the absence of both sides, the other parties, were moving forward with the negotiations on everything we can do to make sure we are getting food and medicine and civilian protection to every person in Sudan. Previous peace talks in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain have all failed. Delegates from the U.S., United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the African Union, and the United Nations attended Wednesday's ceremony. The army said it would boycott the talks several days ago, while the RSF delegates went to Switzerland, but at the last minute said they would stay away. And the deepening humanitarian crisis in Sudan has left countless women and girls subjected to sexual violence and rape, and tens of thousands of children at risk of death from hunger. The UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, is the agency saying this, highlighting the magnitude of sexual violence in the nearly 16-month war. Speaking from Sudan, UNICEF spokesperson James Elder described the meeting a senior medical worker at a hospital outside Khartoum who spoke of the horrors this demographic faces. The International Organization for Migration also gave statistics of thousands that have been displaced and those who are trapped in the hostile war environment.
Senior medical worker who gave an insight into the magnitude of sexual violence during this war. She explained she has had direct contact with hundreds of women and girls, some as young as 8 years old, who have been raped. Many have been held captive for weeks on end. She also spoke of the distressing number of babies born after rape who are being abandoned. Without action, tens of thousands of Sudanese children may die over the coming months. Tens of thousands. And that is by no means a worst case scenario. Any disease outbreak and we will see mortality skyrocket. Disease is our greatest fear.
Between the 24th of June and up to date, so this is less than 1.5 months, we have counted 726,000 who have been displaced. This is only one front line. If you add to this others, I give you an example, Khartoum. Out of the 10.7 million internally displaced in Sudan, 35% of them are coming from the capital of Sudan, Khartoum. That's almost the whole capital of the country has been displaced. So imagine the scale of displacement. We still have large number of civilians who are trapped there, extremely under very hostile environment, zero access to healthcare services. They walk for hundreds, maybe of meters or kilometers, many of them under a very hostile environment, trying to secure food. The food prices are skyrockets, very shortage in everything. There are militias who have taken civil properties all over the places. So there are civilians who are trapped there. They cannot get out. Maybe they don't have a place to go out.
President of Sierra Leone, Julius Bio, continues his call for African leaders and the rest of the world to support enhancing Africa's effective representation in the United Nations Security Council. In an interview, President Bio says Africa has to bring to the consciousness of the world that she has also come of age. President Bio, under his country's presidency of the Council this month, convened a meeting on addressing the historical injustice and enhancing Africa's effective representation on the Security Council.
And that is why I want to call on Africa to fully support this and on the rest of the world too, because we are talking about democracy, fairness, representation, and the fact that we are not there in the Security Council, in the permanent category, and even in the non-permanent category, we are underrepresented. It means that this is not a legitimate organ of the UN security of the UN. Its mandate cannot be easily executed in Africa because it is not fair. It doesn't represent our views. So that is why I strongly believe that with the necessary push and with the commitments made by all the P5 representatives there yesterday, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We have to bring it to the consciousness of the world that we have also come of age. Africa represents 54 of the 193 states that make up the United Nations. We are 1.3 billion people. We cannot just be a territory for proxy wars and be used by others. We have a voice. We know what our problems are, and we should have a say. Besides, more than 60% of the issues that are discussed in the Security Council and most of the activities are in Africa. How would you want them to be owned if we are not part of it? So the African leadership needs to wake up again and realize that we cannot be a member of a world organization and not be part of its prime organ.
Welcome back to the world today. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu and his counterpart from Equatorial Guinea, President Teodoro Obiang Mbasogo, have signed a landmark agreement on the Gulf of Guinea pipeline project, paving the way for increased economic cooperation and development between the two nations. The agreement signed in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, outlines key measures for the gas pipeline project, including legislative and regulatory frameworks, ownership and transit of natural gas. As contained in a statement by the Special Advisor on Media, Mr. Ajuri Ngelale, President Tinubu hailed the agreement as a significant step towards opening up new opportunities for gas exploration and employment, while also emphasizing the need for African nations to work together to promote peace, stability, and prosperity on the continent.
Concerning Africa, conflict and conflict resolution that were discussed. We discussed various areas of conflicts, mechanism, and what are we to promote in order United Nations Assembly, promote peace and stability for our continent, and growth and prosperity for that same continent in the same way that Europe and Americans have helped themselves and find a solution for the conflict, the continent, both inadequate capital, industrialization effort, research and development programs that will enlighten our people and navigate our way through problems. Instead of crisis, conflicts, that's bothersome in Republic of Congo and others. We have to look inwards to solve these problems for ourselves.
Sub-regional navies in West Africa have reiterated a commitment to improve information and communication strategies among member countries. The navies disclosed this at the just concluded week-long launch of the maritime security operations codenamed Safe Domain 3.
It's an operation which began in Cotonou, Benin Republic, seeing the deployment of air and sea assets from Nigerian, Togolese and Beninois navies to curb criminality in the Gulf of Guinea waters. Participating ships and helicopters are on the high seas for 4 days, carrying out simulations and also preventing criminally minded persons from having access to the maritime space. Highlighting the gains of the operation, the Multinational Maritime Coordination Center Director, Commodore Anyedi Bok, notes the importance of harmonizing communication systems and involving maritime operational centers, MOCs, in future operations. But there's more.
The essence of Safe Domain 3 is that MMCC Zone E will pull together resources of the member states of Zone E. So they bring their ships together, helicopter, then we try to make this equipment work together. Having in mind that we speak different languages and the source of this equipment are different. So as we operate together, we tend to harmonize this equipment and persons together. So this has been a huge success because yes, we started with teaching problems, but towards the end, we harmonized and the communication went fluently and the exercise went completely well the way we saw.
Commanding Officer, Defender Boat Abuja, Captain Idaheset Udoesien, who led all participating platforms to sea, outlines the operation's overall success despite communication challenges and technical disruptions. He also recommends the continued investment in advanced surveillance technology, strengthening communication infrastructure, and regular joint exercises to improve maritime security.
The highlight of this occasion was the anti-piracy operation, which was conducted on the 6th of August, which involved the insertion of the Special Boats Elements Forces using the Nigerian Navy helicopters on board DB Abuja.
Representatives of both the Togolese and Beninois navies expressed satisfaction with the outcome of the operations, noting the need for harmonized communications plan.
During these 4 days, Operation Safe Domain 3 was conducted successfully, and it was done in a combined way with means and assets deployed from the navies of Nigeria, Benin, and Togo. And in fact, it's just a beginning of the operation, which will last during the 12 coming months until we start the next operation, Safe Operation Domain 4.
The operation's objectives are threefold: to combat maritime crimes through equipment, training, and intelligence sharing, to promote information exchange and cooperation, and to create a secure environment for maritime commerce, thereby boosting trade and economic growth.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Development Bank of Southern Africa, Boitumelo Mosako, has emphasized the importance of the bank's strength for the region's development. Mr. Mosako made these remarks at the bank's 2023-2024 Integrated Annual Results Presentation in Johannesburg, South Africa, where the bank announced a net profit of $404 million and provided a total of $3.8 billion in infrastructure support. Our correspondent, Innocent Samosa, was there and reports.
DBSA says Africa's need for infrastructure development and economic development in Africa is not only crucial but also a pressing necessity. The bank has delivered a net profit of $404 million. The bank CEO, Boitumelo Mosako, emphasized the bank's mandate to promote economic growth, human capacity building, and sustainable development across the continent.
We are here to promote economic development, growth, human and institutional capacity building, sustainable development projects and programs in the African continent. Now, when we started off, it was not like that. The DBSA was initially only in South Africa, grew to Southern Africa, and in the last 13 years, our mandate was extended to sub-Saharan Africa.
South Africa's Deputy Finance Minister David Masondo praised the lender for making an impact in the region and promised to create a conducive environment for entities like DBSA.
So one of the things we do is to make sure that we've got the right people in right positions for some of this SOEs, DBSA, that's why they are performing well. And broadly as government, what we're doing in growing the economy, it's a lot.
The bank's CEO, Boitumelo Mosako, says the strength of the bank is important for the region.
The strength of the DBSA is important because that is the foundation of DBSA to execute on its mandate and execute on its strategy in accelerating infrastructure development.
With challenging economic climate across the continent, are there any challenges that can stand on the way? Mosako explains.
You know, challenges are there. There's economic challenges, the levels of unemployment, the levels of inequality. But therein the challenges lies the opportunity.
The National Treasury says it is optimistic about the continuation of the DBSA's good performance. Meanwhile, Deputy Finance Minister David Masondo emphasized the need to address the challenges faced by struggling municipalities. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
And this one is for tourists who have North Korea on their travel bucket list. Well, the country has announced it will reopen one of its cities to foreign tourists in December after nearly 5 years of border closures due to the COVID-19 pandemic. According to official, tourists will soon be allowed to visit the mountainous northern city of Samgyeong after North Korea sealed itself off at the start of the pandemic in early 2020. The country started to scale back restrictions only in the middle of the year. The border closures also cut off imports of essential goods, leading to food shortages that were made worse by international sanctions because of the country's nuclear program. Well, let's take you back to one of our top stories today, the Israel-Hamas war. As we look at the latest developments earlier, we tried to join VOA's correspondent, Amy Gutman from Tel Aviv. I believe we have her now. Hello, Amy. Thanks for joining us. The Hamas-run health ministry confirmed that more than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza. Do we know if these figures are just civilians or they include Hamas fighters?
Is that there? Between Hamas Health Ministry's released numbers and actual verified numbers. That's been the case since the beginning of this war, and even in a report citing Hamas recently, where they even conceded themselves that they were having a hard time verifying their numbers. According to the IDF, 17,000 have been killed in battle, but again, that includes terrorists, that includes Hamas fighters, as well as civilians. And again, 11,000 remain unverified, so it's very difficult to know.
Right, and the war has sort of been divided with the latest tensions in the Middle East, talking of Iran and Lebanon, of course, now in the picture. Give us an idea of what the Gaza Strip feels like right now.
Okay, I know you just asked a question. I'm going to ask your control room to...
Apologies, we seem to be having connection issues with Amy. That was the VOA's correspondent in Tel Aviv, Amy Gutman, trying to give us updates on the latest situation in the Israel-Hamas war. Of course, we did report earlier that about 40,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza. We do not know if the figures are just civilians or they include Hamas fighters as well. We also do know that the ceasefire talks are holding, but not all the sides are there. Hamas has said that it will not be attending those talks. So, of course, during the course of the day and these developing stories and out of the Gaza Strip and other crises across the world, we'll bring them to you here on Channels Television. Well, that's the much we can take on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.